It is time. Collect the childrens. Get them together. Bring them round. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Let me straighten myself out a little bit there. Oh, there you go. 420 Live, Jeff Kravitz, far from straight. And here for another week. We are beginning our 5th month of coming to you, 420, practically on a daily basis. It's been about 120 some odd days we've been in lockdown, and we've been coming to you for almost 100. Today would be show 98. So I want to say I'm proud. I want to say I'm happy. I want to say that, this has been such an amazing life change, but I'd be lying through my teeth because I feel that we're all in a very, very crazy upside down world right now. And we're kind of feeling it after 4 months. I mean, it's summer. We're all getting away. The numbers are exploding. Los Angeles closed down again today. I'm glad I got my pedicure, my mani-pedi last week, because now no more mani-pedis, no more office buildings. They've shut everything down. We're back up. They've kept the beach open, thank God, because I went to the beach this weekend twice, and it was incredible. Everybody had plenty of room. As long as you don't go where the parking lots are, you're fine. The ocean was great. It really takes you away. It makes you feel that you're doing something, like you're accomplishing something. So I know some of my friends are back to work. I saw Kevin Mazur was out. My friend Kevin Mazur was out shooting Brad Paisley in St. Louis, Missouri, I believe, this past week. A drive-in concert, which, it's hard to think about how you make money at a drive-in concert when you see how few people are there. But, at least everybody feels like they're kind of doing something, and they're not just sitting around. And, they have something to talk about and to market and discuss. So, we are hanging right here with you guys, and going to be coming to you for the foreseeable future, because I really don't know what's going to how this is going to play out. So, as I do, I watch what's happening. I read the headlines. And last night, late night, I was very sad to see that we lost Kelly Preston, 57 years old, of breast cancer. Cancer has touched every person I know. It's a scourge. You want to talk about COVID? Well, the real demon here is cancer. And I lost my sister to cancer. I've lost other family members to cancer. I've lost many friends to cancer. It's touched all of our lives. So you should do what you need to do out there to stay healthy so the cancer doesn't get you, but also early detection, going to the doctor, eating relatively healthy, says the sugar addict. I want to share a couple pictures of Kelly, because Kelly her career and my career both started, not that we knew each other, in LA in 86, which was her first movie that came out. And I ended up running into her for the first time I'm going to pick that picture, in 1989 at a pro-choice event. And here she is with Justine Bateman. And it's amazing when you look at her here and you look at, as you see the pictures progress, you really see how people age. Here she is with Laura Dern. They were in a movie together. I want to say Love Letter. Here's her and John at the Oscars. I mean, John Travolta, very controversial life that guy's had. He's been, accused of many things, and, Scientologists. And, it's interesting what's happening now with all the Scientologists. But, there was a lot of love there, and you could see it in the pictures, how much these guys cared about each other. Here was Salma Hayek. That was Savages. And this is interesting because this is Battlefield Earth premiere. Sylvester Stallone and Jennifer Flavin with Kelly and John. That was the movie that was financed by Scientology, and it was really big production, and it was like 2 hours long, science fiction, and it was pretty bad. It's pretty horrible. Here they are with Billy Bob Thornton at the after party. And this is the shot I let off my Instagram tribute with. I just love this picture. It's also from the Oscars. And then her walking down the red carpet, smiling at the fans above us, yelling at her and cheering and stuff. So just a unique shot. And here, John won the Emmy. This is at the HBO party. This is the last photo I have of them, 2018. The two of them together. And I think, let me just thumb back here a little bit. I can get to this, some of the early shots, 99. This is in Show West in Las Vegas when I used to shoot Show West. This is also Show West with Sandra Bullock, Jason Patrick, and Joel Schumacher. This is the Golden Globes in '99. So these are some of the early shots I have of those guys. Kelly, rest in peace. Everybody do what you can to contribute to the Cancer Fund, the American Cancer Society, and take care and hug the ones you love, because the way things are going, we don't know what's happening in the world. But we do know one thing. We're going to be here every day at 4:20 on Monday through Friday, taking you through this as a little distraction to keep you away. Listen, it's not always happy. The stuff out there is happening is very sad. I try not to focus on it or get distracted by it, but this was something that really touched me last night, and it's a thing, you know, cancer's a thing. So today on the show, our distraction for the day is my good friend Jay Blakesberg. You know, I don't know how to introduce Jay. Everybody on the scene knows him. You've seen him all over during the pandemic, bringing you different conversations about photography. You know, Jay's in it to win it, accomplished book author, director. He's done many, many things over his life. And we became friends at a Dead show is where we met. Let's bring in, say hi to my friend Jay from a secret location.
What's going on, Mr. Kravitz?
How are you, Jay?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there, you know, in the time of Rona 20, but doing what I can.
It's kind of crazy out there, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I mean, you know, already this summer we've just missed so much epicness, because that's what we do in our lives is we go and document epicness, music festivals. And I'm just sad that, you know, Lock-In and Peach and Mountain Jam and Summer Camp and High Sierra and Dead & Co tour would have started a couple days ago, and just all this stuff. And it's just not happening, man. And we're just like,
when was the last time you were not working on July 4th?
Decades? I don't know. Because
there's always some big show.
And you know, and it's weird because normally we're at a music festival or a music event, and as opposed to, like, you know, sitting around at home watching everybody be patriotic and you know, experiencing it that way. It's very, very, very bizarre. My last show that I saw was that show at the Beacon Theater that Major was at also. We were
Love Rocks.
Yeah, Love Rocks. We were hanging all night, and you know, that was the show that Larry Campbell got COVID at, and I had dinner with Larry. We sat next to each other. Jackson Brown got sick there. He was at the next table in front of me having dinner with Danny Clinch. And Paul Schaefer got sick. A bunch of production people got sick. Knock on wood, I skated through that you know, COVID Corona experience and made it home. And I was at the Allman Brothers thing 2 days before that at the Garden, and I know a bunch of people that got sick there also. But I just was trying. You know, it's funny. I'm backstage. I remember, like, I was trying to play it cool, and people were like, "Fuck this shit, I'm hugging you, man," and people were hugging me, you know, and I was just like, you know, but again, you know, I got lucky. I mean, it was just so early. That was March 10th and 12th were those two shows, and then I flew back to San Francisco on Friday the 13th. Brought my kids with me, and we holed up for 3 solid months without doing anything.
Kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, have you been organizing your shit?
I did. I actually, you know, the way that my workflow goes is that I put everything into a computer that is in my office that my employee works at. And it goes into a folder called Need to Edit. I look at every single photo I take. And I decide what I like, what I want to delete, what I want to send out to people, what I want to post on social media. And so usually that folder on the low side has 15,000 images in it. It usually hovers somewhere between 30 and 50,000 images in it. And I'm pumping stuff out that are, you know, on assignment and has deadlines and people need to get right away. And then stuff that I'm just shooting on my own or doesn't, you know, I might go through something really quick, pull what I need out for some social media and move on. But that whole folder is clear 100%. Like there's nothing in it. And it's, and usually what happens is by like the middle of January the next year, like I'll have most of it cleared out, and then it just starts over again, right? Because I go on there playing in the sand usually, right? For with CID and Dead & Co. and, you know, come back with 15,000 images from that. You know, I go to a music festival and I shoot 10, 12, 15,000 images.
Oh yeah, easily, especially if you're shooting all the bands and everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I look at every single one of them. So I got that cleared out. And then I just started kind of putting some collections together. In the back of my mind, I've got a whole bunch of book ideas that I'm working on. Some of them are in full steam. I think I want to do a festival book. I think I want to do a Bob Weir book, but I think I need to wait on the Bob Weir book because I think Bob's working on his autobiography. So that needs to come out first. I'd love to do a Neil Young book. So I started doing a big Neil Young edit. I've been shooting Neil for, 30 plus years. And I've got some other things. The book that I actually am working on right now, that I'm working with a guy named Nick Merriweather. He was the guy who ran the Grateful Dead archive down at UC Santa Cruz. Remember when they put that help wanted ad and wherever, looking for a PhD that loves the Grateful Dead and blah, blah, blah. We all laughed at that. But Nick Merriweather got that gig, and he doesn't do the archive anymore. But I'm doing a book on psychedelic icons. So people who were influential for taking LSD or mushrooms. And my photographs of them: Tim Leary, Owsley, Kesey, Terrence McKenna.
All psychedelic warriors. What did you think of the documentary on YouTube about everybody finally fessing up that they're all a bunch of acid heads?
I haven't finished it yet, so I don't have a full. My family got a little bored.
You know what it is, and you understand what it is, and it's kind of interesting that in this day and age that people are all like fessing up, and nobody's has any qualms about it whatsoever.
Right. Well, the thing that I found is that years ago. These days we're all on social media like this, and we're in the public eye, whether we're doing podcasts or the Kravitz 420 live show or whatever it is. But, 20 years ago, like if you got on a radio talk show and said, yeah, I used to love to trip, or I trip all the time, people would be like, they would think you were literally insane because that's what you did in the 1960s, right? You didn't do that in 1988. Well, we fucking did, right? And so literally people thought like if you were talking about acid, it was okay for Ken Kesey and Tim Leary and those type of people that were in the public eye to be like, have taken acid and have it blow their minds.
Well, they were the first ones to actually step up and be like, drugs are good.
Right. And so about 10 years ago, give or take, I basically decided that I'm okay talking about that LSD changed my lives in a public forum, whether it's a radio interview, a magazine interview, whatever it is. Because it's true, LSD did change my life. I mean, I went to prison for LSD. I've had my mind blown from LSD.
How long were you in jail for?
I was in jail for 8 months. I got.
Whoa.
You didn't know that, Kravitz?
Oh. Sorry, that's the end of the conversation. No convicts. Bye.
Yeah, yeah, right.
My people did not vet you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm confessing. Yeah, I got arrested in April of 1981 with 2,000 hits of acid, and I was convicted of possession of LSD with intent to distribute and sentenced to 5 years. New Jersey, right here from, man. We're all fucking us Jersey deadhead photographers are from.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's true.
So anyway, but and I just decided that I wasn't gonna not talk about that anymore because it's okay. And I think that it's accepting. So anyway, that's a book that I'm working on right now. And this guy, Nick, is writing it. And it's my photographs. And that'll come out, next summer.
Great.
So that's the first one that'll come out.
How many books you have now?
I have done 16 coffee table books of my music photography.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
How many you have in storage?
Well, my Jerry Garcia book that just came out in October, I mean, we've got, several thousand of those because,
right.
We haven't had a chance to go out and really sell them in the last few months. So I do a lot of speaking engagements where I get up and talk about photographing the Grateful Dead over the last 40 years or whatever. And we sell books and do events like that and festivals and whatnot. And none of that has happened. So book sales have slowed down considerably. But like my Eyes of the World book. I did that book with Josh Barron. Josh. I'm sure maybe he's been.
I have a copy of it.
And, we did 10,000 copies of that book, and I'm down to the last 140 copies.
Oh, that's great.
130 copies, and that will never get reprinted again. So if you haven't gotten the Eyes of the World book, we have 60 photographers in that book, right? And we got Annie Leibovitz in there, and Jim Marshall, and Baron Waldman, and Ed Pearlstein, and Rosie McGee, and myself, and So I published the book through my publishing company, and I co-edited it with Josh. Graham Nash wrote the foreword for it. And so that one's almost gone. My Hippie Chick book, I've got maybe 400 or 500 copies left. Fare Thee Well book, there's maybe 300-400 copies left. Guitars That Jam, I think there's about 700-800 copies left. So, these are all books. I mean, Hippie Chick, there were 5,000. Fare Thee Well was.
How you usually do the run is about 5,000?
Well, it depends. Fare Thee Well, we did 12,500, and we're down to about 400 books, right? So, that one is done very, very well. So, you can buy books from me. This is my pitch. Go to rockoutbooks.com.
Any of you people that still buy books.
That's where you can buy signed copies directly from me and support us poor photographers who can't shoot rock concerts anymore.
And someone's asking the link. It's on your jblakesberg.com, right? You have all your links.
Yeah, blakesberg.com, rockoutbooks.com, and that's where you can find all my books. And you can order them direct from me, and they're signed by me and personalized. There's a place where you can tell me who to sign it to. But I love the process of publishing books. I mean,
you do edit and lay out all yourself, or you have a team that does all that stuff?
No, I hire really high-end, beautiful art directors to do these books. A woman named Francie Green did my Jam book. She did my Hippie Chick book.
Oh, I've talked to Francie before. She's really nice.
Yeah, and a woman named Sine Higgins in Boulder has done the Eyes of the World book and Fare Thee Well and all my Locken books. And the Guitars That Jam book was designed by the publisher. I've done 16 coffee table books, and 14 of them I've self-published. Only 2 of them have been with publishers. So Guitars That Jam was with a publisher, so they did the design on that. Francie just designed the Neal Casal book that's coming out in November that we're going to talk about later in this program. So I love that process. I love, we're old school, right? Our generation still likes to hold something in our hands that's tangible and tactile and turn the page, as opposed to, fleeting moments on the internet. I mean, I love Instagram. I love, looking at photographs online. But I still think there's nothing like holding a book in your hand and just having that experience and sitting in a chair and looking through a book. And so that's why I still make books. And, the market has changed from the days of blockbuster 100,000 copy, coffee table books. But, I'm a small publisher and got a little niche, and people. Yeah,
well, you have a niche fan base, a niche market. I mean, that's kind of what you've been covering that San Francisco scene for years. The first time that I saw Jay, I finally talked Dennis McNally into giving me a photo pass. When I was seeing the Dead, I really wasn't taking my camera. I was going more for my own personal experience and exploration, because I was working in the music business. So I was surrounded by all this pop music, the Britney Spears and all this kind of incessant MTV crap all the time. And when I got into the Dead, I'm like, wow, this is something that's real. So I naturally didn't go to it as a photographer, because I was using it more as a exploration, a launch for deep. In other words, my camera would probably stepped on it and broke it. I was so high.
So at this show that Kravitz is talking about, it's in Oakland. The Grateful Dead are playing, and this guy comes in, and I had never met him before, but I knew his name from magazine credits and whatnot, because we look at magazine credits. He introduced himself, and
what happened? No, the line was, you came up to me and you said, "Are you Steve Granitz?"
Oh.
And I said, close. And I said, Kravitz. And you're like, yeah, I knew you had to be Granitz or Kravitz the way you were shooting, because I was shooting the Dead like I was shooting Madonna. I was like,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, you were like this. You were like I shot a lot of film, but you went through like 15 or 20 rolls of film and 3 songs. Like,
in
I don't
3
know if you're
songs.
looking for your camera, right? And you're shooting so fast, but while you're loading your camera with new film, you're dancing, right? You're like jumping up and down and you're dancing, and then you're loading the film and you're like, and then you're taking the film out and you're dancing, and I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? Like, I'm like, fucking madman. And then in '95, when they did the opening of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, I saw you there. You were shooting that. Me and Mazer were actually shooting for the Rock Hall, and I guess you were doing maybe
HBO.
You were doing
stuff.
What's that?
HBO. I was shooting for HBO.
And Bruce Hornsby is sound checking solo piano, and we're up on the video platform where we couldn't shoot during the show, but we're up like right at the lip of the stage, and Bruce Hornsby starts playing a Grateful Dead song, solo piano. Kravitz puts his camera down on the ground and starts dancing like he's at a Dead show with the full band and Jerry. He's like, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's a madman. He's like twirling. I swear to God, he was fucking tripping. It's Bertha. He's playing Bertha. Like, I'm like, it's fucking solo piano sound check. I'm like, what are you fucking doing, Kravitz?
Hey, I was latching on anything I could back in those days. That would be September of '95. So Jerry would have been dead 3 months at that point, right?
Exactly. Yeah, 25 years ago.
25 years ago, we lost Jerry Garcia. What have you done to fill the hole in your life since Jerry left?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, for me, I've been documenting all of those guys. I mean, lots of Phil and Friends, lots of Rat Dog, Wolf Brothers,
every incarnation from the other ones.
Yeah, everyone. And after Jerry died, I sort of became the photographer because I did the publicity photos for the other ones, all the dead reincarnations in 2003, 2004 with Joan Osborne, Jimmy Herring, 2009 with Warren Haynes, Further, Dead & Co. I've done all those group band publicity photos for all of those, all the Phil and Friends stuff that Phil was doing.
Right, because the Dead had Susanna Millman pretty much as their full-time photographer, right?
Well, I mean, she never did portraits of the band, and she was
but she would do all the live, like everything I saw live coming out of
there.
there.
Was a lot of stuff that she was doing because she was married to Dennis McNally.
Of course, nice access.
Yeah, so I mean, she was definitely there all the time for sure. So was Bob Minkin and whatever. But I mean, post Jerry, I started kind of they kept hiring me to do different stuff and kind of became their guy, I guess. It's funny. I was interviewing Herbie Green on my talk show, which is called Photos with Stories, a few weeks ago, and Herbie was like, when he did those portraits in '87 with Dylan. He hadn't worked for them in like 7 years, and all of a sudden the phone rang, and it was like his turn again, is what he said. It was my turn again. And so then when, after Jerry died, it was my turn, like Herbie was sort of retired a little bit. And
you're like the bridge photographer between all the old guys and the newer generation.
Yeah,
right.
and I love shooting all this new stuff. Pigeons playing ping pong and Goose and Twiddle and all these bands. I love them. They're fucking killer.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
But it's funny, like in the early '90s, I did my first portrait of Fish in '93. People be like, Fish, like I had an assistant that worked for me full time who loved Fish. He grew up with Fish. I was a Dead end. He kept saying, you got to go see this band. And I was just looking at him and be like, dude, I'm already a member of a cult. I can't join another cult. Right. And so after Jerry died and I kind of, dialed Fish in a little bit more. I was their photographer for about 6 years from 99 when they played in Oswego. Actually in April of 99 when Trey and Paige joined Phil for Phil and Friends at the Warfield.
Yes.
Jason Colton and Fish Management hired me as the photographer. And then from there in the summer of 99 when they played Oswego with Del McCoury, and they don't like to call it a festival, but it was a festival.
Right.
Jason hired me for that instead of Danny Clinch. I think Danny maybe just had his kid was born or something like that, as his second kid. And so I came in for that, and then I became their photographer for a number of years. And Jason would fly me, and it was really a little bit pre-social media. It was really just for their archives. I mean, they were very, very smart because they have so much documented. I mean, it's brilliant what they did, and they
have a lot documented photographically, but video-wise, there's a huge hole in their archive
in the early days. But
yeah, well, yes, up until now-ish.
Yeah, the last 8 years or whatever.
Yeah, 3.0 era is very well videotaped.
Yeah, but so so I kind of and I really fell in love with that band. I just think they were great people, and the way that I actually met them was I did a magazine story for Keyboard Magazine. It was a feature story on Page, and they all came to my studio. And Fishman never showed up, right? Even though it was a story on Page, they wanted a full band portrait. So Fishman never showed up. And then I shot the portrait like the next day down at a festival in Laguna Seca in Monterey. Really quick, crappy portrait. It's not crap. It's okay. It's just fast. But I did an individual portrait of Page, Mike, and Trey for that story. And Paige loved that portrait of him. I actually shot it on 4x5 film with a 4x5 camera with the cloth over my head. And it was this beautiful, beautiful, deeply saturated, warm portrait, really lit beautifully. And he loved that. And that's how Paige and I became friends. and eventually became their photographer. And then when they disappeared and went on hiatus, that was sort of the end of it. And they came back and, worked with a couple of different people. You were there at Red Rocks with me in 2009, I think that was.
Yeah, 09, yes.
And that's when, they didn't have anybody hanging out backstage, and it was, it was a different time and a different place. And then eventually they settled on Renee, and Renee's been their guy ever since, which is good to be consistent, with one person. But
yeah, and he has a very unique style too. Something he's, a little bit different.
Yeah.
So they've mixed it up quite a bit over the years, photographic wise.
Taylor for a while, for a while it was bouncing between me and Taylor, and then you were always there, doing stuff as well.
Well, I always had the digital lined up, which you guys didn't. So my pictures they had that night, and you guys had to wait a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
I
was one of the early adopters of digital. By 2000, I had fully transitioned by April 2000.
Yeah, I didn't. It's only been, I think, 11 years that I'm fully digital.
Yeah.
But we adapted, me personally, I adapted pretty early to digital in my studio. But I was shooting film, but we had set up a full scanning station, flatbed scans, negative scans, and I was still delivering all of my jobs digitally. Record company jobs and album covers and things like that had, it wasn't instant news stuff. I remember the first time I had to transmit something to Rolling Stone. I had a picture of Keith Richards, and I went over to my buddy Peter De Silva's apartment in the East Bay. He was a stringer for the New York Times, and he knew how to, what was it called in Almost Famous, the Mojo machine, and he scanned a slide of Keith Richards for me. And I think I had email at that point. I don't even remember what year it was, but he scanned the Keith Richards slide for me on his little Kodak little mini scanner, and we emailed it to Rolling Stone. That was the first time I transmitted something digitally, but it was from a scan. So I was shooting film and scanning stuff and then sending it out that way.
Yeah, well, I had clients back in the day. They'd be like, "All right, you have to shoot a photo for the wire service." So you had to have a color camera and a black and white camera. And then you would have to shoot a one roll, be like, okay, this is the wire service roll. So you shoot that roll, take it to the AP. They would print it while you sat there. They would run the film while you sat there. They would print an 8x10 of it, and then they would strap it to this big drum. And it was like the first fax machine, and it would just read it line by line by line. And it was just like the weirdest, oldest technology. And I'm just like, holy crap. And now it's so much easier. I watched every change happen. Everything used to be so expensive before and so hard to do. But the first time I saw Instagram, what was your thought the first time you saw Instagram and didn't really understand the filters and the pictures? I was like, wow, everybody became such a cool photographer. How are people getting this cool shit happening?
Yeah, that's a pretty good description. It's funny, like now I don't even think about Instagram filters at all. But yeah, like I was like, wait, can we put stuff in Instagram and use their filters and then export it back out? But then it was already low res, and you couldn't really do that. And so, but that was a fad like anything else. It was a fad like cross-processing film and shit like that. Which
of course, but it was so unique when I saw it. I was like, wow, this guy just took this picture. It looks like it was like 1970s in the beach with on Kodachrome or something. It was interesting that people would be able to flick of a button, and all of a sudden everybody became these photographers with Instagram. And then the fact that Instagram is a photographer's medium, but photographers have such a hard time surviving on there.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to beautiful women.
Do you or have you been going in and scanning a bunch of your old film stuff lately, or?
Yeah, I actually went in and started scanning at the very beginning, but then I started the show, and then all that went out the window. My daughter's like, I don't feel like photo touching your stuff, but I have some really cool stuff on film that hasn't been scanned in. Like I found some pictures of Donald Trump and his dad from back in the day, and
why don't you like fucking Photoshop that shit to make him the asshole that he is, and
Well, that's impossible,
right? Because
he needs more than Photoshop, Jay.
Right? He needs to
be voted out. And while we're talking about voting, we should mention that the most important organization out there right now,
is
Headcount. Headcount.org. Everybody
8645 11320.
Oh, that's the number, right?
That's the bumper sticker. 8645.
8645.
11320. Yeah.
I love it.
You want to show some photos? I think I gave you some photos.
Yeah, let's see. Well,
look at the ones from San Francisco that I shot during the shelter in place. These are like downtown San Francisco, Union Square, main shopping district. like all the big brands, Valentino, and this is right in.
When did you take these?
This is in May, back in May, early May.
I gotta say, I don't see you getting maced in the face like Kevin Mazur.
No, I didn't go out and shoot any protests. I was trying.
Me neither, dude.
That's the Union. This is Union Square.
Oh yeah, look at that. It's empty.
Yeah, on a weekend. That's Union Square on a weekend. There's just nothing going on, right? But yeah, look at Macy's, right?
Did all that get looted?
No, but I think they were trying for it to not get looted or hoping it wouldn't get looted. That's the cable car line on Powell Street.
Wow. Yeah, there's the very end there. I can see Market at the end.
Yeah, Market, and then that's the St.
Were the cable cars running?
No. I love this one, a Victoria's Secret, right?
The guy's trying to look in.
Yeah. And then, of course, this is up on Haight Street with the
Ben Jamin's place.
Well, Ben doesn't own it anymore. Sonny owns it. It used to be Ben Jamin's and Sonny's, and then they kind of separated their business. Now just Sonny owns it. A woman. It's called Love on Haight now. I think it used to be called Jammin' on Haight. Now it's
right.
Love on Haight.
Jammin' on Haight.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the status of San Francisco? Has it cleaned anything up?
The governor just closed everything down, just like in California, everywhere in California today, all bars and restaurants. I know that Terrapin tried to open and do some outdoor dining, and they had to close it back down. People need to wear masks, and people need to just, everybody has FOMO. You see somebody out in a bar, or you see somebody going out and doing something, or at the beach, or at a swimming pool, and you're just like, I can do that. I can social distance, but it's fucking impossible. And look at New Zealand. They just are down to 0 cases, and they just opened all back up, right? Keep everybody out of their country. But, we obviously have no leadership in our country. And, with so many lies from 45. And it's
well, you know what? Our politicians always lie. We can't listen to them. That's ultimately what it comes down to. So I don't take advice. I used to be like, there's a vacuum in leadership was my mantra. And then I realized that even if he stepped up to the microphone and started leading, I wouldn't be interested in what he had to say anyway.
Right. Yeah. Not him for sure.
So,
but if we don't start figuring out a way to really shut this down, like we won't get concerts back for 2 years.
I don't think there's going to be a concert for 2 years. I hate to say that, but
I don't think there's going to be a big concert this summer or next summer. Yeah. I think that if we get a vaccine and it gets, and it really gets out there and it works, I think the earliest that we're going to see live rock and roll on a grand scale is going to be.
It is a grand scam. They ruined the fucking fun, Jay. They took all of our fun away.
Yeah.
What the hell? We were having such a good time. The bands lined up to play this summer, Rage Against the Machine. There were so many people stepping up to the mic this summer, and everybody. That Pearl Jam record's sick. There was so much good music about to be unleashed on us. The festivals, that Bonnaroo lineup was ridiculous. Outside Lands, ridiculous. Just so unbelievable what has happened to our life. And to think that they would stop the music. I am just flabbergasted.
I know, it's mind blowing. But yeah, I was going to say the earliest I see it coming back is late fourth quarter 2021.
Well, in India, they're using plasma therapy, which is they're taking the plasma from the infected people and turning out a vaccine from it. And what they're finding is effective to keeping the as a vaccine for like 3 or 4 months. So there is an article I read about them trying to do it in the U.S., but the U.S. isn't really receptive to it now, probably because they want Big Pharma to come in there and do that.
Right.
So everybody makes $1, I bet.
Right. $1. That's all $1 billion, and it's all at 45's cronies, probably.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. They talk about the looting in the streets, but the real looting's that $500 million that they won't tell us where they spent it.
Right. Yeah, giving it to all of his donors' business.
He gave it to all the evangelical churches.
I know, right? Yeah, separation of church and state. Yeah, that worked, right?
He's buying votes, is what it is, But I don't even know. I don't even think the way he's acting now is going to work out. Anyway, not why we're here, Jay.
Right.
So, talk about the first time you met Jerry Garcia.
I think the first time I met Jerry was in a hotel room in Boulder after a show, and it was a party in a hotel room, and I was probably 18 and stupid, and said a few dumb things, and then it was just awkward, and I left. But the first time that I was like face to face with him, one on one, was in November of '87 when they were filming the Throwing Stones video in Oakland. I've got a shot of him wearing this top hat. I didn't send you that one, I don't think. And we had a little bit of an interaction there. You know, Jerry was like an aw shucks kind of guy. Like, he was not like, you know, of course there was the spinners and everybody who thought that, you know, Jerry was speaking to them directly and, you know, through God.
Jerry looked at me.
Right. Jerry looked at me. Jerry was God. Jerry was this. You know, Jerry was a guy who just wanted to fucking play guitar and make music that way. And yes, the lyrics are magical and the music is magical, and it was a incredibly special and unique time. But you know,
the mix of that high octane LSD along with the music creates your own mental state where things are happening that aren't happening, and sometimes you think those things are true, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I give it up to people that think that he's talking to them. I mean, he is talking to us, but just through music.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, in January of '91, I got hired to do a portrait of him for the Golden Road fanzine magazine.
Blair Jackson.
And yeah, Blair Jackson. And that was a story about with him and Hunter being interviewed. Blair interviewed Garcia and Hunter together, which might actually be the only time they were ever interviewed together. And I did the portraits for that. And, you know, Jerry the whole photo shoot was 3 minutes long, you know, because Parrish was like, okay, Jerry wants to go, you know, he's got to go to the, you know, like those guys they had been photographed at that point so many thousands of times, you know, they're so over it. But, you know, like for you and me, we go and photograph something. If we don't come back with the goods, why would that art director or photo editor ever hire us again? So our job is to go out and be as brilliant as we possibly can and come back with an amazing photograph, but they just want to go have a fucking turkey sandwich, right? They just don't give a shit because they've been doing it. And every single artist at this point that I work with that's been around for those 40 or 50 years, Carlos Santana, Neil Young, Bob Weir, Phil Lesh, you know, the list goes on and on, Roger Waters, every one of these guys are so over the photo shoot because they've done it, you know, like,
well, they've done it. And they're 40 or 50 years older, so they don't look as good as they did either.
But, you know, like I work with a band, let's say like Pigeons Playing Ping Pong, which I've done portraits of 3 or 4 times now. Like, they're still excited by something fun. Oh, look, let's climb in this tree. Oh, let's climb up this sculpture. Oh, let's wear these cool clothes. Oh, let's go to the Las Vegas sign. You know, like, so get bands like that is super fun because you know, like when you're shooting a band and they hire you and you're spending the whole day with them, like I did the most recent Twiddle publicity photos and we did those last summer, right before the Peach Festival. I went up to Burlington and, you know, they hired me and, you know, we had a plan. It was the middle of the summer, so you can't really start shooting too early because of the sun. It's really high and you're outdoors. So I think we started shooting at like 1 in the afternoon and we went till sunset, you know, maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon. We go for 6 hours, right? And can you even imagine asking any of those artists that I named, Neil Young? I mean, the last portrait I did of Neil Young, I got 90 seconds. The one before that, I got 3 minutes, you know.
Yeah, I've had so many of those where you set everything up and they come in, they look at the camera, and then they leave. Yeah,
and so, you know, B.B. King, I did a cover of him, you know, years ago. He's like, you got 10 minutes, dude. And so you got to be prepared and creative in those 10 minutes. So you got to have your lighting set up. It's all tested. You've done your, you know, with BB, it was shot on film back then. So it was, you know, test Polaroids. Now you've got your lighting dialed in with digital. You're ready to go. You know, like when I do like the further publicity photo backstage at a New Year's show, you know, 10 years ago, I go and get all the roadies to come in and staff people to sit where everybody's going to sit and stand and dial in my lighting and look at it and make sure it looks good. So literally, you know, I get the band to come in. I say, Bob, you sit there. Phil, you there. Joe Russo, you're there. This person here, that person there. They come in. I shoot for 5-7 minutes, and you know, Bobby looks at me and goes, "Are you done yet?" You know, and actually. I don't know if I put the further one in there, but if you look at, there's a photo of Bob and Phil together. I sent you 2 photos, which is actually from that same shoot, because after I did the further shot, management wanted me to do a shot of Bob and Phil together, and I sent you 2 of those.
Hold on.
And
oh, there it is. Hold on. There it is.
right, that's right. I was like, yeah, and then they're like,
how long did that take?
I mean, I probably had Bob and Phil together for 2 or 3 minutes, and that was it.
You know what? You're professional, and we shoot at 1/250th of a second. So in 3 minutes, think about all the pictures you can take, especially now digitally, right?
Yeah, and those were digital. So,
all right. Well, I want to show a little bit of these Jerry shots because they're fucking epic, and everybody's seen them throughout the year. And then we're going to bring Gary in and talk about Neal.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about from '91 for Blair Jackson. That one right there.
Yeah, that's an epic shot. I've seen it everywhere. Book covers and
magazine covers.
Everything.
That's at
78, right?
1980.
Okay.
80. Rutgers, New Jersey. Jerry Garcia band.
Oh, look at that.
New Brunswick, New Jersey. Rutgers University. Same show. Frost Amphitheater, May of 1988.
Big old Jerry.
Yeah. Vegas in 93.
I watched Chapel Hill last night, a bootleg of Chapel Hill 93. It was so good. The band was so tight. I mean, there's some of the shows from 93. I mean, people like to write off the dead in 90s, but
right.
Who the hell's that?
That's me in 1981.
No wonder why they arrested you. I would have arrested you too. Search that kid. See, I always looked like a cop, so it was good. And nobody ever searched me. I never got that hassle.
Yeah. Phil and John Mayer. This is right before John joined Dead & Co. He came up and played for 2 nights with Phil at Terrapin.
Right.
Look at Phil. He's like, yeah, get it, John. Get it, John.
Yeah, John Mayer's been a total hero.
Yeah. Jerry in 93. That was shot in David Grisman's living room for a cover of Acoustic Guitar Magazine. 1980 at the Warfield in San Francisco. 87 at Shoreline. 1982 at the Frost in Palo Alto, Stanford University.
Jerry really didn't age that great, huh? I'm 58.
Right. Yeah. Jerry died at 53 and he looked 25 years older than you.
Jesus Christ.
I think you went the wrong way. Keep going. Yep. Same thing. Frost in 82. 79, December 28th, 1979. My first West Coast, California, Bay Area Dead shows. I was 18 years old.
Oh God.
There's
the band.
Yeah, that was a publicity shot that I did of them backstage at Shoreline. They were like, let's stack up all the equipment and make it like the Allman Brothers live at Fillmore East.
Pretty funny. Pretty classic.
Yeah.
Snoop smoking. The Boys, we saw that earlier.
Yeah.
Jer. What's that from?
That's from that same shoot for Blair Jackson.
Oh, got ya.
Frost Amphitheater in 86. That was right before he went into the coma.
Yeah, you could see that he's headed not in a good direction.
Yeah.
I love when my kids walk in and I'm watching these shakedown streams every week and they come in and they have some kind of comment about how Jerry looks. And this shot, so young or he's so old.
Right. This shot here is June of 95. Last time I saw the Grateful Dead, last time I photographed him. So this is a month, 2 months before he died. And you can see this is what it was like at the end where his chin was planted into his chest and he couldn't really lift his head. And it was
the Shoreline, right?
Shoreline, yeah.
That was my last show too.
That's the Jerry Band in 87 at the Eel River. They used some of these shots in that CD that came out a couple years ago. 93.
Great shot. Great shots, Jay. Talented guy. I'm jealous. But, we each had our thing. You were like the Rolling Stone San Francisco guy. I was doing the Rolling Stone events down here in L.A. I was doing a lot of the Hollywood shit. You were doing all the Grateful Dead and all these cool music and all this portrait stuff. And you've done an amazing job. I'm very proud that we're friends and you've had an amazing career. So
thank you. Love you very much, Kravitz. Love you to pieces.
So now let's talk about Neal Casal. Neal Casal, a guitar player.
Right. So Neal was a brilliant guitar player, an incredible songwriter, but Neal was also an incredible photographer. And so we just launched a Kickstarter campaign and officially launched the Neal Casal Music Foundation.org. So go to kickstarter.com and just search Neal's name, Casal. Just search Casal. It'll come right up.
See it everywhere. Do you want to introduce Gary so we can bring him in?
Yeah. Let's bring Gary in.
Hi, Gary.
Hey guys,
How are you? Good
how's
to
it
see you.
going?
Hey,
Nice
Gary.
to see
Good
you.
to see you.
I
So,
thought that picture of Jerry from Rutgers in 1980 and the difference between him and the picture right after that in 1988 was shocking.
yeah, yeah, that's for
Just like I
sure.
said, every time my kids walk in the room, they're like, "Ooh, Jerry does not look good tonight, Dad."
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little intro of Gary. So Gary was Neal's longtime best friend and his manager. And Gary is the one who set up the Neal Casal Music Foundation.org nonprofit. And under that umbrella, we did this Kickstarter campaign, which has two components. One is all this new music that's being recorded for a tribute record. And Gary will talk about that. And then this photo coffee table book of Neal's photography that I'll talk a little bit about, which is all of Neal's photographs from the late 1990s up until very recent times. So Gary, why don't you talk a little bit about the music side?
Well, Gary, why don't you talk about Neal first and tell us how you met Neal and what your relationship was like?
I will. I was working at a record store in 1987 in a place called the Morris County Mall in Cedar Knolls, New Jersey. And that's, I grew up in Randolph, New Jersey. It was about 10 miles away from where Neal grew up in Rockaway, New Jersey. So we were both mall rats, they would call us back in the day. I used to go to the mall. My first job was at the mall at the electronics store there. Neal was probably coming into the store before I knew him, trying to swipe microphones and things like that, because we had stuff like that. But we used to go to the record stores in that mall before we knew each other. And then I was working at a different mall at a record store in 1987, and Neal was in his senior year of high school, and his bass player from his band used to come and shop at the store, so I already knew him. And one day he came in, he's like, "You got to play our tape, man. We're called Exire." So I actually worked at the store with a guy named Eddie Trunk, who is fairly famous these days as the foremost authority on heavy metal. And at that point, Ed had a radio show on a station called WDHA, Friday Night Headbangers Ball Show. So Neal's band was hoping Ed would play their tape on this Headbangers Ball Show. It would be their big break and propel them to metal stardom. Didn't quite happen that way, but what did happen was Steve, this bass player, came in, gave us the tape. Ed and I listened to it and was like, "All right, this is pretty good." And we went down to a place called the Show Place in Dover, New Jersey, which is still in business. Half of it is a recording studio, the other half is a strip club, which comes in handy for idle musicians while they're waiting for their overdubs to sneak through a back door that separates the two businesses in the same building. And funny enough, that place had a lot in my personal music history. The first show I ever snuck into when I was 15 was the Joe Perry Project in this club called the Show Place, and it was a tiny club, and of course Joe Perry was a huge star, but he'd left Aerosmith and now he was playing like a 200 capacity dumpy club. But somehow I convinced the guy at the door to let me peek my head in and see, and there he was. And then 5 years later, that's the first place I saw Neal. And
Gary, I saw Muddy Waters at the Show Place in Dover, New Jersey.
Amazing. What
Wow.
were you doing there?
What's that?
What were you doing there? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Yeah, which town did you grow up in?
I grew up in Clark, New Jersey, Union County.
Yeah.
Well, not too far, but yeah.
Yeah.
1979, I think that was.
Amazing. Yeah, I saw Muddy Waters at the Stanhope House, which was a blues roadhouse in Stanhope, New Jersey, which is still open.
I think it was probably that same tour.
Probably.
Yeah.
It was right down the street.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I met Neal there, and we just became pals immediately, and we bonded over music. And the first thing I did was help him get into Blackfoot, which was a Southern rock band that was kind of on their way down. But in the late 70s, early 80s, they were a big band. They played arenas. They had a couple platinum albums, and they were a Southern rock band. And the reason Neal and I both like them is because they were based in North Jersey where we lived. So if you were a musician in North Jersey and you went to one of the guitar stores, the people in the store would talk to you about Blackfoot. So Neal and I were both fans of theirs, and they of course had fallen on hard times with the new wave music had started, so southern rock music was uncool and out of style, but they were still playing 1,000 capacity places, and they were looking for a young guitar player. So I talked to their manager all the time because I wanted to promote their records in store. So I would just call up out of the blue, be like, hey man, I work at a record store in New Jersey, I want to promote Blackfoot. And finally, one day the band, I had talked to him and he's like, yeah, Ricky's trying to get new musicians together. And I was like, I got a young guitar player. He's great. Okay, well, if you want to come out here, Ricky will try him out. So Neal learned those songs inside out. And we went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he auditioned for this band, Blackfoot. And he got the gig. And during the audition, I remember Ricky Medlock, who's in Lynyrd Skynyrd now and was an original member of Lynyrd Skynyrd. He must have been about 37, 38 at the time, and Neal was 19, and Neal just had his head down. He was playing all the parts exactly, singing harmonies, playing perfect solos, and Ricky Medlock was like, "Where'd you come from?" And he got the gig, and the first gig he did with them was New Year's Eve 1988, opening for Ted Nugent at Cobo Hall in Detroit, which was a very famous venue. That's the Detroit Rock City venue, I believe. From Kiss days.
Yes.
And
hey, Kravitz, check your email if you can. I just sent you some photos of Neal from that time period that Gary had sent me, where he was a hairband looking dude. So if you can pull it up.
Pull him up.
So he was in the band for a couple of years, and then while he was out there, he was living in a barn, and he started writing solo songs, and he sent me a couple, and I just thought, wow, he can really do this. He was just developing so fast. As a singer and as a writer. And so we made some demos in 1991. And the first tape I sent out was to a guy named Jim Cardillo at Warner Chappell Music. And Jim also had a little bit of history in the metal industry. And he and I were friends, and we became friends because I worked at a metal label. At that point, I'd left the record store, and I was working for the label that found Metallica and Anthrax, label called Megaforce. And Jim was working at a metal marketing company called Concrete. And so we bonded over the fact that we were working at metal companies, but we were more like, I liked Neil Young and the Grateful Dead and Lynyrd Skynyrd and Jackson Browne, and so did Jim. And so we became pals. And I thought when we made Neil's demos, I was like, I'm going to send it to Jim. And during the third song, he called me up and was like, who is this guy? I'm flying out there next week. I got to see this guy. And he signed him to a publishing deal, and they helped us get a record deal and really helped launch Neil's career.
I'm looking for these Neal pictures. Hold on, let me just take this out here.
Did you see the email that I sent you?
Yeah, I got it. I think I put them in this folder. Let me just look real quick. Oh, maybe I didn't highlight them. Hold on, Jay. This technology thing. There you go. All right. Right, these two. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Let me do this. Let me do this, and then I can go like this. This is technology, guys. This is the finest technology. Here we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's Neal with Ricky Mayer. The other guy without the hat is a guy named Ricky Mayer, and he was the bass player in Blackfoot for a while. And I don't think they were boyfriends, but they look like they might be. But,
and then there's Neal as the Hesher, as we said.
And that's full on with his band Exire. Look at the smoke in the background, Jay, and the hazing.
Love it, man.
So how did he transition into the jam bands?
Well, what happened was, Neal had a solo career from 95 and really up. The last solo album he made was 2012, but he made 12 solo albums. It was a big part of his career. He was not a jam band musician at all, although he did. We would go to see the Grateful Dead and Jerry and Fish regularly. We saw them many times together. And in 2005, I believe, I had introduced Neal to Ryan Adams in like 97. And I think Ryan was dreaming up this band, which, he was already had the Cardinals going, but he wanted it to go in a little bit more guitar heavy direction. And he had thought, oh, Neal's the guy. And one night, Neal and I were out on the Lower East Side going to see a show, and we ran into Ryan. And then a couple nights later, we all sat down, and Ryan invited him to be in the Cardinals. And so in the Cardinals from 2005 to 2009, that band kind of evolved into, I feel like if they had stayed together, they would be a large, and of course, if there was no controversy, they would have been a headlining band, like an arena headlining band. They were that good. I don't know if you guys saw them in any of those years, but of course, Ryan had lots of great songs, and the guitar playing, Neal and Ryan together, was fantastic. If you can dig up, there's a lot of stuff on archive of Ryan Adams and the Cardinals in the late 2007, 8. Those shows are amazing. And of course, Ryan was a great singer, and Neal was a great sideman. Neal was always, I thought he was a great solo artist, but he didn't have maybe the boisterous kind of like, I'm the guy. He didn't have that.
He was more subdued.
He was a very humble dude. And
through Ryan, as he met Phil at the Jammies, Kravitz.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, he played with Phil for the first time at the Best Buy Theater in New York City.
You're right.
Yeah. And that started the years of the Grateful Dead love, and then Shapiro put him to work on Circles Around the Sun, and
and also 3 hours a night, 6 nights a week playing guitar in CRB. That's a big job. So he learned it inside out, and he was so good at it. And when Neal could have been the kind of guy like Jerry was, because he had that thoughtful, articulate type of playing, and he was a soulful singer as well. And but yeah, I think that Derek Trucks paid Neal a great compliment that Neal really was blown away by, and it was at that the last Lock-In Festival, Jay, last summer. Derek said to somebody, I got out of the bus and I heard guitar solo, and I knew it was Neal. Like, I could tell it was Neal because he had a unique thing. And Derek loved that. Neal played with Derek a few times, and Derek loved, a lot of people step on stage and want to go head to head with Derek, which is hard to do because he's so
impossible to do.
So unbelievable. As many great guitar players as we've all seen and know. But Neal would just do his thing. He wouldn't try to, I'm going to outdo you. He would just do his lyrical kind of melodic thing. And that was a style he had very early on. As soon as he shed his heavy metal skin, the kind of Mick Taylor, Paul Kossoff tone is what Neal really searched for. And in the CRB, he developed a little bit different style that you could say was maybe more in the Jerry type of style. But if you wanted Neal to blaze some metal licks at you, he could still do it there. And if you listen to some of that stuff, or if you see some of the Circle stuff, I'd always catch those late 80s Neal moments.
You could hear it in the music. Well, yeah. we lost Neal after Lock-In. He had an amazing Lock-In. He was all over that festival. I was shocked. I'm sure you were shocked. Everybody was shocked. It was a shot felt across the whole scene. A huge loss for everybody. And now you guys have set up a foundation. You want to talk about the foundation and what the goals are?
Sure. I just, fairly soon after Neal died, I just thought to myself, I looked at it as my responsibility to protect his legacy and forward his legacy of songs and photography. Because like I said, there's so many solo albums that are fantastic albums that didn't really get heard. There's a huge catalog of songs, and then into all the stuff he did with Chris and with Ryan and all the side projects with skiffle players, Beachwood Sparks, Gospel Beach, the stuff he did. He loved playing with Phil. So anytime he got to go to Terrapin and play with Phil, he, going back to that early young kid who was so prepared, Neal spent days learning Terrapin Station inside and out because he didn't ever want to get on stage and embarrass Phil. But I just wanted to, with the foundation, draw attention to his songs and photography mainly. And then the added bonus is that as we raise money the goal is to buy instruments and lessons for kids in schools in the areas where Neal grew up. So Neal was raised in North Jersey, and then also his dad lived in Warwick, New York, and Neal spent a lot of time there at his dad's farm. And I just feel like with the way music programs have been cut in schools these days, there's a need for where a teacher sees a 13-year-old kid, a girl or a boy, and says they're so creative, they have so much ability, but their parents can't afford lessons, or their parents can't afford a drum kit or a keyboard. Maybe that's where we can come in and help. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to have outreach to, I know, most of the towns in that area. So we're going to start in the places where Neal grew up and go to those schools and either provide, you could call it a scholarship, or you could call it we're taking a kid and giving them 6 months of lessons and see if they get to the next level. If they get to the next level, maybe we revisit it and say, okay, we're going to put you with somebody better. And maybe it's a handful of students. Hopefully it becomes, 30, 40 students a year that we can help, maybe more. And so, because going back to what I felt like was the quality of Neal's songwriting, I just said, well, let's get people to cover Neal's songs and hear what those songs are like in other people's hands. So luckily, Dave Schools stepped right up and he wanted to work on it. And Jim Scott is a producer that I've worked with since 1990, that long. And he produced Neal's first solo album and a couple of his other solo albums, and also produced the most recent Circles Around the Sun album. In between that, he's got multiple Grammys with Tom Petty, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Dixie Chicks, and he's produced 3 of the Tedeschi Trucks Band albums, and Wilco, so many more. And so Jim and Neal were really close, and of course Jim and I are close, and now Dave and I and Jim are kind of masterminding this project. And it's been amazing because obviously Dave knows everybody, Jim knows a ton of people, I know a ton of people, and really everybody we've reached out to and said, we're doing this project, we want you to do a song of Neal's, everybody's been like, I'm in. People have been so cooperative, and the original goal was to do all of them at Jim's studio, which is in Santa Clarita, California, because I wanted there to be more of a continuity than a lot of tribute albums.
Not happening.
Well, we got about 16 songs done there, so that was pretty good.
Wow.
We worked in February and March, so you'll see there's a lot of video, that content that we have. So we had all these different artists, 10 days in a row in February, different artists every day, different backing band. And then 6 days in March before we had to shut it down because of
wow. Well, congratulations. You have a little something to work with.
Well, we have 16 songs. So now there's, 17 other artists who have committed to doing songs. So what we're doing now is letting people do them where they can do them.
So are there 2 Kickstarters, or is it one Kickstarter?
One Kickstarter. It's really the Kickstarter was the idea off the bat was to do it with the book that Jay has done, and Ricky worked with Jay and made an incredible, beautiful, beautiful book of Neal's photography. We did a chat about it yesterday, and every image I saw was like,
yeah, I caught some of the chat. The photographs are incredible, and Neal was a huge surfer. He loved shooting, like everything he did, and I saw a lot of the pictures yesterday, and they look incredible. So, Jay, you're doing the picture book part of this?
Yeah, so I did it with my daughter, Ricky, and Ricky was the editor of the book, so she actually went through Neal's whole archive, tens of thousands of photos, and we boiled it down to about 250 images. It's a hardcover book. It's coffee table size. It's gorgeous. It's at the printer right now. It'll be back and start shipping in November. The Kickstarter is done. It's exceeded all of our expectations.
Yeah, I looked yesterday. It was 5 times what you guys had asked for.
Yeah, but
congratulations.
We still want more, because the more money we raise, the more things we can do with that money.
Well, I'm sure the excess goes into the foundation, Gary, the extra money that you guys raise.
Well, you have to look at it like this. First, it's a 250-page book, 240-page book. What is it, 250? And so that's expensive to print right off the bat. And then you're talking about a 33-song album. So it's just expensive to do all this. So we've raised a ton of money, which is obviously incredible. It's been amazing. We've also had some private donations, and we're going to continue fundraising, because honestly, to market a 33-song album is going to take a long time. Now, the photo book is exclusively available in the Kickstarter. We may have some left over that we put in the foundation merch store, but if you want to get the photo book, the best way to do it is on Kickstarter. Yeah. The album will come out in the springtime, and to promote a 33-song album is a enormous effort. So we're going to be.
The whole world works on 30-second TikTok videos now.
Right.
Yeah,
it'll be a triple vinyl record, three vinyl record. Which
wow!
But also, Kravitz, just to put in perspective, just all the stuff on the Kickstarter, the books and the albums and the T-shirts and everything that people are ordering, just the shipping alone for all of that stuff is close to $20,000.
Wow!
Just to get it out to people. So just to give you an idea that, we're at 123,000 or whatever it was. I didn't look at it today. But big chunks of that go. And then of course you got to make the albums, and, when they were flying artists into the studios, they're covering those costs, right? Everything costs money, the studio time, all this stuff. And so
the hotels, the airfare, it just adds up so quickly. And mastering 33 songs. So mastering is the final process before a record is printed. And to master 33 songs and to press vinyl is over 10 grand right there. And then you're talking about artwork fees and we're not expecting anyone to work for free. So it's
I did.
You did. We weren't expecting it. We had a huge salary for you, but
it's okay. I'm donating it back to the Neal Casal Music Foundation.
Jay, huge heart. Gary, I mean, I'm blown away by what you guys have done in Neal's name and in his honor. His talent is sorely missed. He's gone way before his time as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure you feel the same way. He had a lot left to give, and especially if you use his last performance as lock-in as a judge of what he did, because he really stepped up that weekend. It was kind of mind-blowing. Everybody was talking about him all weekend long, and I know being a musician is not easy. We don't understand suicide. It's one of the hardest things. If anybody out there has any kind of issues, I want you to please get help. You want to contact any of the three of us, I'm sure we'd be glad to talk to you, or the
Backline.care.
Yeah.
Backline.care.
In addition to funding these two projects, the Highway Butterfly tribute album and Tomorrow's Sky, the photo book, we will be donating a part of all the proceeds to Music Cares and to Backline. So those are both organizations that help with mental health for musicians. And Neal, in his farewell letter, really said, it's really important to me that people understand how dangerous this lifestyle can be. And he wasn't even referring to drugs or anything like that, because Neal was not a drug addict, but just the level of doing it and the exhaustion and the level that Neal went at. And I've always said this about Neal, Neal came from Depression era parents, and they had a serious work ethic. And so Neal would go and do 200 some gigs with CRB a year. And then on the days off, he was doing Circles Around the Sun or going to play with Phil. And there was one little period where there was like 3 weeks with nothing. And I was like, dude, go to Mexico, go surfing. I told these guys I'd produce their record, and then I was going to go play on this. He just didn't take time off, and
himself.
He just wouldn't do it. He had that work ethic that he was gonna. I think a lot of independent musicians, and probably you guys as independent photographers, have it as well. It's like, is the phone going to stop ringing? If I stop working for a month, are they going to call somebody else?
Exactly.
And so that's a plight of a.
It's a plight of a freelance artist, which is pretty much what it is. Well, exactly. we all there's a big hole where Neal was. We all feel his loss. I want to thank you guys for coming on today and remembering Neal and the work you're doing to bring his music and his photography out to everybody. So thank you guys.
Thank you, man.
Kravitz, man. Love you. Appreciate you giving us some airtime here. And after I get through all the old photographers, I'll have you on my show. I'm
the new generation, Jay.
We're new generation. Before I get to you guys, I want to get through all the old timers. I got some good ones coming up. So.
Great. All right, Jay. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
All right, guys.
See you guys. Thank you.
See you later. Thanks, Jay. There you go. Jay Blakesberg, Gary Waldman talking about Neal Casal. You guys know what to do. Step up to the plate. Get in on that Kickstarter. Get yourself a book. You know, do what you got to do to make a difference out there. I want to thank you guys. Went a little long today, but, you know, it's good conversation, serious conversation, and stuff that you guys needed to hear. So thank you all. I appreciate it. Peace, love, happiness to everybody out there. Big hug. I can't wait to give you all a hug in person. You know, stay safe. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to yourself. You know, you don't need to go out and party and rage. You just do it at home like I've been doing. My poor house. All right. Take care, everybody. We will see you tomorrow right here for the Tuesday show. Who's my guest? Good question. But tomorrow's show 99. I got something planned, and the show 100 coming up on Wednesday. Can you believe 100? I've been coming to you guys over 100 times with my brand of bullshit. I'm so glad you guys are all buying. I have a nice condo for you in Brooklyn. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Same bat time. Same bat